I've been talking this whole time. I've been saying hello to everybody and greeting, and I'm on mute. But at least at the top of the hour, we are starting on time. I am off mute. I am looking at the comments in chat, and once again, welcome everybody on YouTube, on LinkedIn. If you're joining us via Twitter, hello. I can't hear you or see any of your comments, but please, if you are joining us and you can, add to the chat, add to the conversation. I can see conversations from LinkedIn and from YouTube. So please say hello. Let us know your questions. Let us know your inputs. But welcome once again to another Cutaway Security ICS Friday Infosec chat. This is July 8th, 2022. Welcome back. Hope to see that you're joining us. If you got the tweets or the posts on LinkedIn, you should see the StreamYard link. If you want to join us and you have a camera, I'll put you on. We'll hear your thoughts and we'll hear your inputs as well. Maybe talk about some of your week. But in lieu of that, we're going to talk about my week. We're going to talk about kind of what I did. And then we're going to go into our topics that we have there. Certainly, we can get distracted. We can go in another direction. So, put your comments in, put your questions into the chat, and I will do my best to read those and answer those. And yeah, so let's just get started. Hopefully, everybody's having a great week. I saw somebody on a friend of mine, Nora, on LinkedIn. She put up a post about remember everyone deployed, and so there's a reason why I wear red shirts on Friday. That's because that's one of the things I want to do. Remember everyone deployed, and certainly I'm in the United States. Most of you know of my Marine Corps background, so I'm definitely thinking of the U.S. military that's out there. But there's a lot of things going on in the world. We all have defenders of our society that are out there standing in harm's way, and it's a tough, hard job. And I can I have the utmost respect for everybody that's doing for us right now. So think about those people, whether they're your loved ones or people or just people from your society. They're out there, getting ready to make things happen. So and that is inherently dangerous of itself. So please remember them in your thoughts this weekend, and go out. I mean, the reason why they're doing that is so that you can go out and you have a good week, have a good weekend, enjoy yourself. That's why they're out there doing it. Trust me, they will enjoy themselves at some point. But right now they're doing their jobs, and I'm sure they're doing it well. So remember those people that are out there. Okay, so let's talk about. I'm not seeing any comments in Slack or anything like that. Any questions? So we'll get started with what Cutaway Security is doing this week. And I'm coming back from that week teaching in Munich. That was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Got a lot of good feedback from the students. Oh man, so many good questions. It's interesting to see and I might have mentioned this before, but it's interesting to get a different perspective on things, see the slightly different questions or requests for emphasis or clarification from people on the other side of the planet, basically from me. It's not quite the other side of the planet, but it's definitely a different way. The Europeans have a different approach to things, and so it's always interesting to go over there and see their input because they're extremely valid, but they see different things, and their society has different priorities and different concerns, and it's interesting to get that input and that feedback. So coming back off of that and, getting back into the groove, 8 hours a day, talking, actually it's more than that because I always start early. I always stay late. I always do extra things in the evenings, and it's really difficult to keep up on that. And so, coming back just like everybody else who comes back off vacation or off a long trip, communications, having those, checking in on the communications, checking in on the people that are expecting me to provide input into the conversation. And, it's one of the things that I learned while I was doing incident response at Warner Brothers. I was one of those people. I started off when I was at Warner Brothers. I had 1,000 unread or 300 unread emails in my inbox, and 1,000 emails, that were in my e-box. In other words, I looked at them, but I didn't sort them. I didn't get them to a location where I knew that I could keep them for reminders or for references. And so I want to encourage everybody to, communications is key. Responding, looking at your emails. If somebody is, emailing you, there's something that they need done. Certainly there's I don't want to say spam, but if you're working in a corporate environment, those emails, the simple reminders on policy and other things, that you need to keep up on. But if somebody's sending you an email, it's extremely important that you respond to it. Even with I will get back to this at this certain date, and then put that on your list of tasks. So I highly recommend that. Trevor, hello. Thank you for saying hello in the chat, and I'm glad you're here. If you have a comment, want to jump on the stream, click on the StreamYard link. But if you have a comment or a question, please add it into the Slack. I'll see it, and we'll see what we can do. So communications, definitely want to emphasize that. I've been doing that this week and just kind of going over my to-do list to see what I owed people. And a part of my to-do list, Cutaway Security is a small consultancy, and one of the challenges of a small consultancy is to is to do financials. I mean, this is a job after all, and we do have to do that. So coming back around on that is extremely important. And so that's a part of what I've been doing this week, which is making sure that the invoices that I'm responsible for went out, recording certain things, making sure, checking up on my finances, and making sure that that's everything is copacetic as I expect, the expense reports and payments that are coming in. And when you're dealing with, fortunately, right now I've been really lucky. I've got my clients are very, very consistent, and so I don't have to worry about it too much, but I do have to manage it. And so that is having a good process, coming up with a good process that works for you. Certainly there are softwares out there that help you do it. But if you're considering a consultancy, then you're going to have a plan around how you're going to be invoiced, how you're going to track finances, how you're going to, even if you get a bookkeeper, how you're going to kind of balance everything, because they don't know what you're doing and what you expect. So having a methodology for that takes practice, takes experience, and it's a part of my day to day. So I just like to put that out there in case you're considering it. Russell, yay, hey, good to see you back, Russell. Thanks for joining us. Russell's been on a couple times before. Thanks for saying hello. Looks like you're joining from YouTube, so I appreciate that, and good to hear from you again. And if you have any questions or want to tell us about your week, let us know, man. All right, so documentation. Obviously, the work that I've been doing, that ongoing project, coming up on finishing up a phase, and so we're doing the project closeout. That's another part of what I've been working on this week. I'm happy that we're getting to the closeout of that and starting a new phase of the project, and that's going to be good. And then finally, I do as much as I can, volunteer for the ICS Village. DEF CON's coming up, so a part of what we're kicking off this week is some of that planning. There's a lot of exciting things going on at the ICS Village. First of all, I got to update the ICS Village website with the new DEF CON scheduling. We've got, we did the speakers, and so they had the call for papers that went out. And Bryson and Tom kind of went through that and selected different talks for the different times. Now I have to go, and we've got a team of people that are going to be going through and looking at those talks and looking at the schedule that DEF CON has, the different times, and we'll be getting out there. So if you're going to show up for DEF CON, whether it's live, we will be in person there, or you can join virtually if you're going there. Just watch for the talks. Definitely you can jump on the DEF CON Discord and follow along there. Since I'll be live, I probably won't be monitoring the DEF CON Discord. Certainly that's something you can do. There is a ICS Village Slack out there, but I think in this case for this event, we're going to default to the Discord. I'll have to check with Tom and Bryson on that, but all three of us are going to be live and in person there. So lots of stuff going on. Watch for the ICS Village website, whether you're arriving virtual or whether you're, arriving in person or going virtual. We'll put some stuff up there. Yeah, I'm reading Russell's input, and it's interesting to think about how you're doing certain things, and certainly it's your clients, the people that you're working with are going to drive certain things. As you can see, Russell is looks like he has some more directs. I've said it before. I do a lot of 1099 work, which is staff augmentation for other teams, and that's a consideration. So that's a little bit easier. The more directs you get, especially some of your smaller clients, they're going to have different payment methods, whether it's hello and sign, whether they're using PayPal, Zello is, I've been talking to somebody about that, because that is through certain bank accounts. Coming up and understanding how you're going to get paid for a small consultancy is a concern, something that you have to plan for. So thanks for your input, Russell. I appreciate that, and hopefully somebody can learn from that and either, reach out and say, hey, help me plan this. And certainly that's why we have the Cutaway Security Discord. I haven't seen any questions about that in there, but certainly it's, finding places that people are willing to talk about those things, because if you're experiencing it, somebody else has experienced it, and that's across the board for any of these things. So I appreciate you putting that out there, Russell, so that people can see that and know that's going on. Okay, once again, hello everybody. If you're joining us from LinkedIn and YouTube, Twitter, it's glad to see you here. Thanks for joining us for the Friday Infosec chat. And I'm looking for those comments to see if you have any questions or anything like that. But in lieu of that, definitely wanted to start talking about some of my concerns around the vulnerability disclosures that we've been seeing in the past week. So hello, Struggle Security. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully everything's there. Gabby, good to see you again. Nice to see you joining. an oops, hello. Excellent. But yeah, it's I'm not concerned about vulnerability disclosure. Obviously, I'm an information security researcher. I've put out a lot of stuff, not necessarily about vulnerabilities, but I like to educate people on how to do the research, how to do those things, how threat actors are going to attempt to gain information and access to devices, compromise different things that could affect communications and so forth. So I like to put that information out there. And certainly if I was ever discovering a vulnerability, I'd follow up with the clients and do what in my head is responsible disclosure. That's slightly different for everybody, and we need to consider that. But I think it's important to understand, especially in control environments, how to talk about vulnerabilities. And I'm a big fan of CyberWire and all of the podcasts, especially when I'm out walking or running. I like to listen in on that, catch up on the quick news and the news Control Loop podcast. It's interesting. They're covering some basics right now, but definitely some good talks in their first 3 episodes around that. Well, in the last episode, however, they started off talking about vulnerabilities. They described some vulnerabilities that were in the news. I mentioned it last week, but I also mentioned how I was concerned about the way that they kind of presented it, because the CyberWire team is just reading off the vulnerabilities as they're written. And if you're not familiar with reviewing the CVEs or the vulnerability disclosures from certain security researchers and even from vendors, it can be a little confusing, and it can be a little concerning, because some of the organizations that are implementing these devices, once the vulnerabilities go out, they obviously have to patch. There's a requirement for identifying whether or not the the device or service is implemented within their environment, and they have to get on a patch schedule. And and that's a good thing. That's obviously it's a requirement in some areas, and so everybody should be considering a good patching methodology around these things. But and I don't have a problem with that. Where my issue comes into play is the vernacular that's used around how these things are addressed within the control environments, because we're not talking about our corporate environments. Most people are used to talking about vulnerabilities from a corporate standpoint, meaning that, yeah, you patch, update, restart, test, and you're good to go. But that's not the reality in control environments. We have to come to an understanding around that. But when we have vulnerabilities that say you have to patch this vulnerability right now, that the risk, the common vulnerability security score is a 10. Well, they're thinking about it from just talking to that individual device, that individual application or service. They're not necessarily taking into consideration everything that we would have for a control environment. As an example, and one of my biggest problems is that none of the solutions or the workarounds or anything like that consider where these things are going to be deployed. If you read, and I've got a couple links here, and if you go out and I made sure to put the link for the podcast on there. That way you can go out and subscribe to it and listen to it. I do recommend that. But if you go to that notes page, what you'll see is you'll scroll down and you'll see the links for references to the write-up multiple vulnerabilities in the infrared thermal cameras. Okay. And you can go read that. And I did. I perused it real quick, and it's some good write-ups around it. But you can go and look at the website, and you can see their solution is, for the workaround, there is none. Well, they didn't take in context where that's being deployed. Right. And, absolutely, Gabe, indeed, the risk and impact of patching is not the same for OT in many cases. Now, there is a solution. I mean, perhaps those devices should be patched, and when you're in the CyberWire, when he was reading the vulnerabilities and he was reading how the security researchers described it, they said that it had to be patched right now, that if threat actors had access to this, they could modify the process and cause a safety issue or cause inferior products. Well, think about where these things are deployed. If threat actors have direct access and communicate with these devices, there's a bigger problem, and it's more of a systemic problem rather than just these devices having a patch. The threat actors have to be in that area. They either have to physically be connected to that local process network, or they have to be remoted in. So the workaround, they're incorrect about the workaround. All right. The fix for this initially is secure architecture and secure implementation, monitoring the remote access to that environment and preventing threat actors from gaining access to those process control networks. I'm not saying that the organizations shouldn't patch these things, but to say that there is no workaround around this, I think that's negligent on the part of the security researchers that are putting that out. In other words, they're not educated. They're demonstrating that they're not educated in reducing risk within control environments, and they're kind of borderline just kind of putting some of these vulnerability disclosures out there and creating media around that to pump up their numbers. Okay, and so I hope that their teams can come back around, that they can work with individuals that are familiar with these types of environments to get a better vernacular when they're putting this information out there. I'm also hoping that CyberWire, as they're putting information out about vulnerabilities that are being disclosed, that they can leverage somebody with an understanding of these environments and make some better recommendations than just going off the statements that are made in some of these media releases, because there's a statement people make, And then there's the reality of the implementation and the solutions. And we need to be careful as we're putting this information out there. A part of the role of an information security professional within a control environment is to provide the engineers and the operators, the people and the IT personnel, but also leadership, an understanding of the real risk around these vulnerabilities, and so that they can address them appropriately. Okay, let's see the other one, the Trellix disclosure about critical flaws in widely used building access control systems. Their comment in their write-up, applying vendor patches should be the first course of action whenever possible. No, no, that is incorrect. That is the completely wrong message to send. That is the wrong approach, and I don't recommend that you do that. Now, should you be applying vendor patches as appropriate? Should you be evaluating the risk of a vulnerability associated with operational needs? 100%. But the workaround, once again, around this, the first thing that you should be looking at is looking at the architecture of this. Have you properly protected direct access to these types of devices? And that's where organizations should be questioning, not whether or not they should be patching these things first. There's a point that I was trying to remember. It's there's a logical process. It's one of the things that we teach in SANS ICS 410, but it's also what I use when I start talking to people about vulnerabilities within the different applications. When we identify the attack surface, because let's face it, this is a part of the attack surface, and there's so. Using this, falling back to the architecture, but then describing different ways that they can improve their vulnerability management process within their organization. That's important as well. But that's more of a systemic issue within that organization, and might be driven by things that none of these people are identifying, which is regulation. And in lieu of regulation, people are just going to make this stuff up, how they're going to do it. And certainly there's whatever works in your environment is a good way to go. But starting with that architecture, and I'm always that's what I was going to say. Whenever I'm teaching, I'm kind of putting that message out there: protect, which is preventing these things, patching, but also you can do things to prevent by limiting access to certain things. And I think one of the recommendations from one of the implementers of the building access control systems devices was to disable the web interface, and they gave a direction on how to do that. That's certainly a workaround that works, but you lose some connectivity, some management, remote management, which might be okay, right? And so that's a better workaround than applying patches, in some cases. I think that I put that last one on there, the article from the Register, and you can look that up. Oh yeah, so I did put the link in there, and basically it's a quick talk with a few of some of the what I consider some of the most experienced security researchers in control environments, and and you can see a quote right there from Ron Fabula in there. While it makes sense from an IT perspective, talking about these, patches, applying patches immediately, while it makes sense from an IT perspective, it's unrealistic from an OT perspective, and ultimately doesn't make critical infrastructure any more secure. And that's definitely what I'm talking about. The approach should be prevent, detect, and monitor, or prevent, detect, and respond. Excuse me. Prevent, detect, and respond. We should be preventing things. Applying patches is one way to do it, but secure architecture is another. We also know what every one of these vulnerabilities look like when communicating over an Ethernet network. And if we have proper monitoring in place, we can detect exploitation attempts, and then hopefully our team can respond. Let's see. Gabe has another comment. System asset hardening and secure network architecture should take priority over patching in most OT. Gabe, you're absolutely correct. I appreciate you following up with that comment, and that is that's exactly what I'm saying. It's we can't ignore patching, but we have to approach it appropriately within the environment. If we're going to reduce risk right now, and that's a part of what. So there's two different ways of thinking about risk management in a control environment. And certainly there's a leadership standpoint. What should I be focusing on? What should I be directing my teams to do? How should they be managing this? And that is more of a strategic, systemic thing, meaning that planning to get them. The leadership is planning to get their personnel the time that they need, the money that they need to address these things, and also, where appropriate, outside help. In other words, they're setting up their policy standards and guidelines in a manner that allows their team to say, hey, you know what, we've got this, this, and this. We need assistance because our team is working on all of these other things. As people are doing patch management, day-to-day business is going on. And actually, in a lot of these environments, what people don't consider and realize is, in order to keep them operational, a lot of times they have to make operational choices over security choices, such as patch management. And it goes back to that operational needs outweigh the risk of these vulnerabilities, and that discussion is being made. The engineers, the IT personnel that are supporting the process, they are constantly asking the question, how can I reduce risk right now? They are asking for the recommendations around that. I'm trying to help a lot of the people understand, the fact that it's that whole protect, detect, and respond. You have to have those. We want to improve the protections. There are more than one way to protect an environment over over just patching. Battling an issue. Let's put that up there. Kevin Martin is commenting, battling an issue right now where updates and or updating STIGs were applied, trying to track down what changed and if the STIG or updates broke it. Yes, I mean, that's a part of it. So the STIGs are security templates or scripts that make specific settings. Some of it's done scripted, automated, some of it's done manually. And yeah, I mean, one of the issues around scripts, and trust me, I'm all about automation. We should be automating stuff as much as possible. But when you have things that are scripted and you apply a bunch of things at the same time, knowing what broke it is the issue. It's difficult to track down. And so it's in STIGs. Kevin mentioned that you don't like STIGs. I get it. No, and because I've seen them applied. They can be. I like STIGs. I like reading the STIGs. I like reading the STIGs. I like because it provides a very specific. Here's why you should do it. It provides they usually provide very clear, here's technically how you do it. Unfortunately, if you apply STIGs, a lot of STIGs at the same time, they can break it. Now, try to apply those one at a time. That takes a long time. You got to set something, test, and we're talking about applying 50 to 100 STIGs at the same time, and okay, which one broke which? Yeah. So definitely. So you do have to be careful around those security settings. Hopefully vendors are putting out a little bit better information about what can and can't be done. Right now, we're not asking them specifically to use STIGs. We're just, I kind of default back to the Center for Internet Security and some of the settings there. But even those, applying those across the board are all at the same time as a concern. So, yep, another comment from Trevor. Automated patching has broken SCADA systems. Yep. These systems are pretty fragile, and that's why that's a great comment. Let me put that back up there. And this is a great one. It's automating patching has broken SCADA systems. Unfortunately, most SCADA software is quite fragile and easily damaged by updates. And that's just a fact of life that we have to be careful of, which is why the industry defaults to leveraging architecture, doing things like some of the network preventions prior to patching. And when, and this whole point that I was trying to make is writing up vulnerability disclosures to specify and to elevate patching as the only thing that's possible, or highlighting that the fact that vendors aren't responding with patches in a timely manner. Well, that's how these things are designed. And that it certainly is an approach, a thought process that only somebody from the information security side, IT side, would take. They're basically, what they're doing is they're taking these new technologies, finding vulnerabilities that are typically known to exist in these types of devices for the level that they work at, and then just taking advantage of it, the media hype associated with the research, and not really giving good value. Identifying great vulnerabilities that should be addressed, but not doing it in a manner that helps the industry at all. Just like Ron says there, ultimately doesn't make critical infrastructure any more secure. So, hey, everybody, we're 30 minutes. We've got our 30 minutes. This is our chat. I really appreciate, this has been all of the input in the chat is been really helpful for me. I thank you for coming and putting in your thoughts and putting it in there. Hopefully you'll come back and do this again. Some of you, hopefully I will, Gabe, I got to get you on here, man. When you can, let's jump on and do this. Other than that, our 30 minutes is up. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hopefully your week went well. Hopefully your weekend's even better. And keep it safe out there. We will talk to you soon. We will definitely see you next week. Take care, y'all.